I never thought I'd end up here typing this story out for strangers on the internet, but here we are. It's a mix of catharsis and revenge, I think. So sit tight, because this is going to be a long one. To start, my name is Emily. I'm 29, and up until recently, I thought I had a perfect life. You know the kind. College sweetheart turned husband, decent house in the suburbs, a fluffy cat named Winston, and a baby girl on the way. My husband, Mark, was my rock. Or so I thought. We had been together for almost a decade, married for 5 years, and I was still that starry-eyed fool who believed our love was unshakable. Pregnancy was rough on me. Morning sickness that didn't just happen in the morning, swollen ankles, backaches, the works. But every time Mark kissed my forehead and whispered, "You're so strong, Em," I can't wait to meet our baby. It all felt worth it. He held my hair back when I vomited, massaged my feet after long days, and talked to my belly like a cheesy movie dad. I thought he was as excited as I was. But now I realize that Mark had doubts. Doubts he never voiced, at least not to me. It all came crashing down the moment I gave birth. I'll never forget the sound of my daughter's first cry, her tiny little fists waving in the air, her eyes squinting against the bright hospital lights. I was exhausted and elated. Tears streamed down my cheeks as the nurse placed her on my chest. "She's perfect," I whispered, my voice trembling. Mark was standing nearby, looking off. I couldn't place it at first, but something about his expression wasn't right. He wasn't crying or smiling. He was just staring at the baby, cold and calculating, like she was some kind of unsolved puzzle. My gut twisted, but I was too out of it to say anything. When the nurse asked him if he wanted to hold her, he hesitated. Yeah, sure," he mumbled before awkwardly taking her in his arms. What happened next still feels like a fever dream. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We need a DNA test." The room fell silent. Even the nurses froze. I thought I misheard him. My brain couldn't process it. I had just pushed a human being out of my body, his daughter, and that was the first thing he said to me? "What?" I croaked, my throat dry and scratchy. "A paternity test," he repeated, his voice firm. I need to be sure, Emily." The betrayal hit me like a freight train. My body was still shaking, my legs still numb, and my heart shattered into a million pieces. Mark, my husband, my partner, the man I trusted above all else, was accusing me of cheating. In the middle of the delivery room, moments after I brought our child into the world, I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. Tears welled up in my eyes, but this time they weren't tears of joy. They were tears of devastation, humiliation, and rage. One of the nurses, God bless her, snapped at him. "Sir, this is neither the time nor the place," she said sharply. "Your wife just gave birth. You need to support her, not this." Mark ignored her completely. He handed the baby back to me and stepped out of the room. Just like that. I held my daughter close, crying silently into her soft little head. She didn't understand what was happening, but I promised her, then and there, that I would protect her from everything, even her own father. The days after the birth were a blur of hormones, exhaustion, and tears. Mark wasn't apologetic. In fact, he doubled down. "You're acting like I accused you of murder," he said one night as I rocked our daughter to sleep. "I just want to know the truth, Em. Why is that so wrong?" "Because the truth is that you're her father," I snapped, my voice low but seething. "I have never been unfaithful to you, Mark. Never." "Then the test will prove that, won't it?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something at him to make him feel an ounce of the pain he had caused me, but I didn't. I stayed quiet, because I was too tired to fight, and I knew the truth would come out eventually. Fine, I thought. Let him have his stupid test. If that's what it takes to make him see how much he's hurt me, then so be it. The next week, Mark ordered one of those at-home paternity test kits. He swabbed his cheek and our daughter's cheek while I watched. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. I'd never felt so insulted in my life. He sent the kit off, and then we waited. In the meantime, Mark started acting like the victim. "It's not like I don't love her," he told me one night as we lay in bed, him on his side, me on mine, a canyon of silence between us. "But if there's even a chance, I just need to know." He didn't need to say it, but I knew what he meant. If she wasn't his, he was gone. The results arrived 2 weeks later. I was feeding our daughter when Mark burst into the room, holding the envelope in his hands like it was a ticking time bomb. "The results are here," he said breathlessly. I didn't respond. I just stared at him, waiting. He ripped the envelope open and scanned the paper inside. His face went pale. "What does it say?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. His hands were shaking. Finally, he looked up at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. "It says, she's mine." "Of course she's yours," I said coldly. "I told you that." He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. "Number don't. You don't get to apologize, Mark. Not now. I stood up, cradling my daughter close to my chest. The anger that had been simmering inside me for weeks finally boiled over. You made me feel like garbage. You humiliated me. You took what should have been the happiest day of my life and turned it into a nightmare. And for what? Because you didn't trust me? Because you thought so little of me? Of us? His face crumpled. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't good enough, I spat. Not anymore. That was 3 months ago. Things between us are strained, to say the least. I'm still deciding what to do, whether I can forgive him, whether our marriage can survive this. Part of me wants to walk away and never look back. Another part of me wants to fight for what we had. But I don't know if I can ever trust him again. I look at my daughter, our daughter, and I know one thing for sure. I'll never let her doubt how much she's loved. Not for a second. As for Mark, well, he underestimated me. I may not have all the answers yet, but I know this. I deserve better.